Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to show you how to make these coffee filter coloring bowls that are inspired by the glass artist Chihuly. I highly recommend doing a Google search on Chihuly. He makes some incredible looking glass art exhibits. They're amazing. A lot of his sculptures are very colorful, and they're all in kind of sometimes crazy shapes. They look really cool. If you ever get the chance to see him in person, I highly recommend it. We're going to get a similar effect using coffee filters. Now at school, right outside the cafeteria, kind of right by 1B, Miss Murphy's room, though first graders last year did this project. Now usually this is the project that I like to end with in first grade. I'm not sure if we're going to do that or we're going to do something different this year, just because we're having a bit of a different year this year. So I wanted to make sure that I uploaded it because it was a ton of fun, and it's something that uses a lot of things that are easily found at your house. What you are going to need to make this type of artwork is you are going to need a coffee filter, and you are going to need a few markers, and you are going to need something to spray water with. So a coffee filter looks like this. If the adults at home are coffee drinkers, they may have one of these. Some machines use a different system, so not everyone's going to have this, but they're very cheap. At the grocery store, you can get them for like $1. So you're going to need a coffee filter. You are going to need some water-based markers. Now, water-based are like the ones we have in class, the crazy art or these Crayola ones. You don't want to use a permanent marker for this whole effect because they will not work. So I've shown some of you guys this before, but the effect that we're doing is by when we add water to markers, we kind of turn them into a paint. And when you're choosing your colors, keep in mind, remember that no matter what you do, a wet color is going to want to mix in with another wet color. There's no way really to keep two wet colors apart and from mixing together. So try to pick colors that are going to make pretty colors. If you pick some colors, you may get brown with this project, just so you know. However, when you buy coffee filters, it comes with so many. So feel free to do as many of these as you want to do. The more you make, the cooler it looks. If you can remember hanging up on that wall, those first graders made tons and tons of coffee filter Chihuly bowls last year, and all together they look super amazing. So what you're going to do is you are going to first start by coloring with the markers on your coffee filter. Now I've pre-did this one, and I'm going to make the exact same one. That way you have some idea of what it looked like before and what it looks like after. So that way when you're making yours, you can kind of see how much color that you want. What I mean by that is when I did this one, I did not put a lot of color on it. And that's why you can still see a lot of white. It made a very light bowl, which I thought was nice. When I did this one, I did some more marker down and I got more coverage of my colors. You can see how this one's a bit darker. So what we'll do first is I'm going to choose to scribbly color. You can scribbly color like me. You can be careful. Everything you do will be right. There's no way to do this wrong. You're just going to get a different effect depending on what you do. So I'm going to kind of color that in this way. And again, I'm going to do this pretty fast just so you guys can get the idea of this project. But if I ever go too fast, feel free to pause the video. Alright, Get that all in there. Then I'm going to take another color and I'm going to fill in those spots a bit darker. Now I'm choosing colors that look similar. They are going to like to blend in nice ways. A blue and a green, if you think about that color wheel, they're pretty close, right? So they're going to mix and make a nice pretty color. If I was putting like a red in here, it wouldn't mix very nice. I would get some brown. So just try to think of the color wheel or Google search up a color wheel and pick colors that are touching each other. You don't want to do colors that don't touch unless you do want brown. That's your choice. So think of those warm and cool color families. I know not everyone has talked about that yet, but if you know your warm colors and your cool colors, or you can Google what are warm and cool colors, always, 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 no matter what you do, they will always mix in a really, really nice way. So go right ahead. I'm going to add some yellow striping to this. Because if you guys remember, a blue and a yellow makes a green. So it's going to make nice colors as well. Alright, so stripe that on up. Then the next step is optional. So feel free, if all you have at home is the coffee filters and the regular markers, if you're able to use some colored Sharpies or even just some black Sharpies, they make a cool extra effect. Do you notice on this one how I have some solid lines here that did not fuzz out, did not turn into paint? That is because I used Sharpie there. The Sharpie will not turn into paint when you add water to it, so it's a good tool to use to make some solid line work in there if you want something that stays a little bit dark and permanent. So what I did is I made some circles in my sections. Then I put some dots on the insides here. Dot, 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 and a dot, dot, dot. Same thing on the stripy sections. What I did is I took a blue Sharpie and I made some other circles. Now, a side note, if you are an artist who does like Sharpie work, and Mom and Dad agree that you can be a Sharpie artist, my favorite type of Sharpies are these brush Sharpies. You have to be gentle with the tips though, because they are kind of like a paintbrush. They make some really cool brush strokes. Alright, and then on the inside, go on in, go on in, go on in. In here. In here, in here, in here. And I got all of them. Perfect. Alright, so now I didn't color them super the same, but they're going to be close enough that you're going to be able to see kind of what it looks like when they look dry versus after the water's put on them. So what you're going to need next is you are going to need some kind of cup or can that can get pretty messy. You're also going to want to protect your surface. Doing this next step outside is highly suggested. It is very, very, very messy. So I have a sparkling seltzer water can that I'm going to use as my cup because I don't need it anymore. It's okay if it gets all painty. You do not want to use the glasses for drinking in your kitchen unless you have permission. And ready? Then you're going to take your coffee filter and you're going to put it on top, and you're going to very carefully with your hands kind of just smush it down so it's kind of staying there. The water in the next step is going to help with that as well. So before we start spraying, really, really, really make sure that the area you're working in is okay to get messy. It is going to be liquidy painty pretty much everywhere. It's going to run, it's going to go crazy, but it's going to be awesome. All right, so if your spray bottle has a misting option, please choose the misting option. You will thank me, it will work easier, you'll get better coverage. The one I happen to have at home does not have a misting section. So what you're going to do is, I'm just going to do the best that I can, and if that's all you got at home as well, it will still work, it just won't be as easy. So the first thing you want to do is you want to spray this top so that the filter kind of gets some suction and it kind of stays there, and it will make spraying the edges a lot easier. So gently kind of hold it with this hand, and you're going to take your spray bottle and you're going to spray right there. And then you want to go around your edges and you want to spray the sides. You can turn it, spray those sides, spray the sides, spray the sides, spray the sides. And you don't want to spray too much because, again, it's going to be like paint, paint, paint everywhere. All right, so now you'd set this aside. You're going to need to let it dry for at least like an hour and a half, 2 hours, maybe longer. Just keep checking on it. If you want to make more, you have two options. You either need more cans, more cups for every one you make, or you can just make one, let it dry, make one, let it dry, make one, let it dry. That's up to you and what you have available at your house. All right, so I am going to set this aside. Notice how I have some nice cardboard here. Kept my table nice and clean. You do not want to make a huge mess with this in your house. Alrighty, so I'll set that aside for a minute, and I want to show you how to assemble these into a picture, and then I'll bring that back so you can kind of see the difference between the sprayed one and the one that we just made. So to put these together, you're going to want something kind of sturdy. I have this kind of cardboard, but if you cut up a cereal box, it will work just as well. So what you're going to want to do is you are going to want to, using glue, using tape, using whatever you have available, you're going to want to kind of start sticking these down together and kind of smushing them close together. And that's what gets that effect of what I have hanging up at school. So if you like that effect, the way I did that is I used masking tape. I made some tape rolls and I just stuck them down and smushed them together. You can also use glue. If you have wet glue, I would suggest using the wet glue. It's gonna make a better hold on it. And all you're gonna do is you're gonna arrange them on your board and you're just gonna stick them down and have as many as your board, how big your board is. And again, you get some cool textures and shapes by the different ways that they smush together. All right, and then that's that lesson. So before I let you go, I'm going to bring that messy one back over here, and I am going to show you how to make it and how it looks different from when it was dry. Alrighty, so it's a little messy, but you can kind of see that I colored this one a lot. So it's going to be a lot darker than the one that I did before as my examples. So if you want yours to be as dark and colorful as this one is, then you're going to want to give it a lot of coverage, kind of like this. If you want it to have more of a pastel-y light effect, you're going to want to leave a lot of the white coffee filter showing. Alright, so that's it for this video, and I hope to see you guys again in the next video. Have fun!